Hey, good morning. I'm Patricia Murphy. It's Wednesday. This is Seattle Now. SIFF is more than just a local indie movie theater chain. Its yearly festival brings hundreds of movies, big and small, to screens across the city. But even as SIFF, the organization, faces monetary challenges, the show must go on at the SIFF Festival. We'll hear more about the state of SIFF and get some festival recommendations from arts reporter Chase Hutchinson in a minute. But first, let's get you caught up. Speaking of films, a new documentary from a local filmmaker about addiction recovery is showing in Seattle tonight. What It Takes explores the consequences of substance use disorder and personal stories of recovery. It's directed by UW marketing professor Jeff Schulman, who's also a regular guest on Casual Friday. The film is showing at 7 tonight at the Admiral Theater in West Seattle. Afterwards, Jeff and an expert from Sound Health will answer questions from the audience. Also, tonight, Seattle cycling community plans to gather at Town Hall to talk about the state of cycling in the city. Cascade Bicycle Club is hosting discussions about how biking fits into major events like the World Cup and how to make cycling safer in Seattle. It all begins at 7:30. The panel includes folks from Seattle Bike Blog and Seattle Streets Alliance. And hey, before we get to our feature presentation, of all the podcasts and all the streaming apps and all the world, you listen to ours, and we are so grateful. Seattle Now is dedicated to bringing you essential local news every day. We're powered by an entire newsroom of dedicated journalists who bring you stories from the Puget Sound region. Everything you hear on Seattle Now and KUOW relies on your support. This May, join KUOW in amplifying the impact of public media. Celebrate Give Big with us. Join as a KUOW donor. Help power this podcast for everyone. You can do it. All you have to do is tap the link in the show notes or visit KUOW.org to make a gift. And thanks from the entire Seattle Now team. I think this might be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. We're back with more headlines on tonight's episode. The Seattle International Film Festival starts tomorrow. 203 films from more than 70 countries over the next 10 days. SIFF has been on uneven financial footing recently, including 2 rounds of layoffs in the past year. The organization also ended its lease with the Egyptian Theater after flood damage shut it down. Arts reporter Chase Hutchinson is here to talk about the state of SIFF and give us a few festival recommendations along the way. Chase, good to see you.
Good to be here.
Thanks for coming in. So let's start by talking about what's showing at this year's SIFF. What are the major draws? What's the buzz?
So the big major buzzy draws are the opening night film, which is I Love Boosters, the new film from Boots Riley, which if you've not seen his films, he makes movies that are a lot of movie. Let's just say that.
Okay, I'm prepared.
I call it triple F. Fashion, forward, philanthropy. I know how to spell philanthropy. Branding, though.
And then there's the new Greg Araki. He hasn't made a film in a while called I Want Your Sex, which I think I can say that over the air.
I think so. This is podcast. You can even tell us more about that film.
It stars Olivia Wilde and Cooper Hoffman, son of the late Philip Seymour Hoffman, and it's a erotic thriller sex comedy at the same time.
All right. Sounds very 2026.
Indeed. And then the closing night film is The Invite, which has Olivia Wilde coming back to also star, direct with Seth Rogen, Penelope Cruz, and Edward Norton.
We feel a very strong connection with you guys.
That is so nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll say thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Very flattering.
Okay.
And Olivia Wilde will be here for the closing night. Boots Riley will be here for the opening night.
Okay, that's the buzz. What about some of the smaller movies that people should be looking out for? Is there anything local in that stack?
There is a lot of good local stuff that I would recommend, and this is where you can really find the exciting new voices or people that you've maybe never heard of. There's Again, which is the feature directorial debut of Mia Moore, who writes, directs, and stars. It's a sort of Groundhog Day-esque reimagining shot and set in Aberdeen, Washington.
2,863 days. How'd you ever survive that long?
It wasn't really my choice.
There's Assets and Liabilities, which is the latest feature from Zach Weintraub, which was shot in my heart, Tacoma and Olympia. It's about a slacker skater dad who has a day to himself where he doesn't have work or family responsibilities that then spirals out of control.
Yeah, there was these like cool looking skate guys. And just on instinct, I gave them a sup. Like a nod and a sup.
I won't say anything more than that.
Sounds fun.
But it kind of feels like one of those like new cult gems of a film for the region. So those are the two I would say are really fun.
Okay. All right. Chase, I love a documentary. Any good docs at SIFF this year?
I would say The Life We Leave. It's J.J. Gerber's film, a local filmmaker, about human composting and how Washington was one of the first states to legalize this. And this was one of the very first companies to get it off the ground. And it's initially a profile of that, but then becomes a very interesting meditation on death, the rituals we create around it, the community we try and create. It really hit me. It was quite a moving experience.
Cool.
I would also say KUOW People, which is Sky Hopinkna's film. It was shot entirely locally over a powwow that he himself was part of. It's a very collaborative experience as opposed to kind of a parachuting in documentary. This is a collaborative work of art from one of, I would say, most notable experimental documentary filmmakers of our region of the country. It's really something. That's playing at the Downtown, which is an incredible space to see that at, especially as there's an unbroken 30-minute sequence at the end that is one of just the most remarkable, interesting things I've ever seen in terms of how it's shot, in terms of how it dances with the people in the film. It's really remarkable.
Oh, wow. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Film festivals, not going to lie, can be a little intimidating. We have some listeners probably who've never been to SIFF before or even a film festival. What would you recommend doing to get the full SIFF experience?
Well, I'm going to do a little bit of a shameless plug in that I think potentially at this point in time, I put together a film to see a day for Chum, the new arts publication locally. And it's like a non-intimidating, like, let's just catch a film a day. Ooh. You don't need to overdo it. I've known people that do 4 or 5 films a day. If you're just wanting to kind of cruise around, see some good stuff, that's what I would recommend. But it also can be if something leaps out to you and has a synopsis or a premise that sounds interesting to you, go with your heart. It can be whatever you want it to be.
You know, it's interesting because I was asking you about people who may not have dipped into SIFF, and you told me that there are people who only do SIFF and see no other movies.
And those are the real kind of SIFF super fans in a way. And I'm saying the festival. And it can be whatever you want it to be, because you don't want to have it be that the festival becomes like an exhausting experience. You want to see the sun. You want to go outside. You want to have a nice beat kind of to yourself to reflect on some of what you're seeing too.
I'm glad you brought up the sun, because now that the Egyptian Theater is no longer in SIFF's umbrella, where is the festival presence around the city?
So it is primarily all in the same area. It's going to be the SIFF Cinema Uptown, the SIFF Film Center, the Picar, which is adjacent to the currently closed Boeing IMAX, and then the SIFF Downtown. The SIFF Downtown is a little bit further afield, so it's not like you can quite as easily walk there, but most of those are kind of within the same radius to where you could be bouncing around from one to the next if you plan out your schedule right.
Oh my gosh, if you're doing 4 a day, that's a long SIFF day with a lot of steps in the middle.
Exactly.
Chase, what is this yearly festival's importance in our greater art scene? I wonder how it compares to some of the larger film festivals like Sundance or the Toronto Film Festival.
What I would say is it's not quite on the size of TIFF or Sundance. It's a smaller regional festival, but is still the flagship festival for Seattle. It brings in a lot of the films that sometimes have been at these other festivals. I Want Your Sex in the Invite were both at Sundance. So it kind of brings a lot of those films that may have been elsewhere that people can't travel out to right here home to the city.
All right. Well, we talked about this at the top a little bit. SIFF is coming off some layoffs and some financial struggles. What is the state of the organization right now?
So I actually have a piece exactly on this called just The State of SIFF that I believe should be in the Stranger in print right now. And I have heard from some folks that they are cautiously optimistic. That there have been some improvements in communication and that there's a lot more transparency within the organization. But then I would be remiss if I didn't note that when we're recording this, the union has put out a statement saying that they're not satisfied with the current pace of negotiations, that bargaining has ground to a halt, that they are not going to be bargaining until after the festival concludes. And they're calling on fans, filmmakers, everyone to express their support for the workers. I reached out to SIFF to get their specific response. And they told me SIFF values its cinema staff and has been working in good faith to find reasonable, fair, and sustainable solutions.
Okay.
But that's kind of a good initial temperature check of where things are. Certainly improvements from some areas of things, but also challenges ahead.
What do you know about the state of SIFF's finances at this point? What's different this year from years past?
They have a lot less people. And I had heard and spoke with someone that they delayed hiring some seasonal employees for the festival, specifically to cut costs, which, to the credit of the staff and the hardworking folks, they pulled it off. The festival has happened, even if it is a little bit smaller. The only thing this employee cautioned me is that you don't want to set sort of the standard that you can continually do more with less, because eventually something breaks. That even if you're talented and dedicated and can do it, there might come a point where you reach a breaking point.
What does the festival mean to SIFF's bottom line? Is it an important part of their fiscal picture?
I would say it's not unimportant. Every part of an arts organization is going to be important, but it's not the make or break. There can be a very successful year. I heard for all intents and purposes that last year was a big hit, and then there were obviously layoffs directly after the fact. So the financial picture is one that has many moving pieces. They are a year-round cinema-going organization. Even if SIFF is great, it doesn't mean they can just coast the rest of the year. They still have to be immediately after the final day of the festival, the last showing, think about what comes next. What are we going to be doing to bring people out to the theaters? And there are things that people are excited about in that regard.
I wonder if the festival patrons will feel the crunch, the financial situation when they show up to the festival.
I think they might already notice it in terms of some of the programming, and that this is a smaller year and that there is not going to be a closing night party. So after the invite, you will be on your own to kind of figure out what you want to do. And so those are like little things, but I would say there's still a robust programming year of things to discover, films to see. It's not like the festival has totally removed sort of the potential for finding good programming. There might just be a few things where people can feel it's not the festival it was even only a couple of years ago.
You know, the last time we talked, you mentioned that there was a worry about SIFF losing some of its individuality with these specialized screenings and the niche programming. How is that shaking out?
Well, I have heard that they have been making progress. The big kind of tough space to crack was the downtown, formerly the Cinerama that they had acquired. They've recently done a lot of interesting programming there. They had an animation series that was all anime films. They've done sort of auteur-driven screenings that are more kind of tapping into a big film that's coming out from a well-known filmmaker, or just historical repertory screenings. So they're finding some of that individuality that's distinguishing them from your bigger sort of chains, your AMCs, your Cinemarks.
Moving forward, what are you looking for in your reporting around SIFF?
So the thing I'm probably going to be most looking into is the state of the union negotiations. That's the thing I've continually said. I want to know what the workers are experiencing. What is their day-to-day life like? What are they thinking about with the future? Because without the workers that are putting on the screenings, that are staffing the screenings, these things don't happen. And so you need to look to the arts workers first as a sign of where things are going.
All right, Chase, really appreciate it. Chase Hutchinson is an arts reporter and critic. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks so much, as always.
Thank you for listening, and thanks to our generous donors for your financial support. It really makes a difference. Take a moment, rate and review the show, or share it with a friend. You don't even have to make a Letterboxd account. Today's episode was produced by Vaughn Jones. It was edited by Caroline Chamberlain Gomez. Our production team also includes Andy Hurst, Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and Paige Browning. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. I'm Patricia Murphy. Talk to you tonight for Evening Headlines.